Hello viewers, in this tutorial we are going to build a customized CI/CD system from scratch. It will not use GitHub Actions or Jenkins, but we will implement it through code. We will start by designing our own deployment orchestrator called CICD Orchestrator. We will build it entirely with Node.js. This orchestrator acts as the brain of CI/CD platform. It will expose a webhook server that listens to GitHub events whenever new code is pushed to the repository. We will then connect this orchestrator with GitHub webhooks. So every commit made to a repository by developers will automatically send an event to our system. To make this secure, we will implement GitHub signature verification, ensuring that only trusted webhook requests from GitHub are allowed to trigger our pipeline. Next, we will design a custom pipeline engine inside the orchestrator. Instead of storing or compiling service code locally, the orchestrator would analyze the webhook payload and will detect whether the changes belong specifically to payment service on its GitHub repo. This allows us to build a GitHub level customized deployment strategy, just like real enterprise CI/CD platforms. Viewers, once a valid change is detected, the orchestrator triggers a real production deployment of payment service using the Railway Cloud GraphQL internal API. This will instruct the Railway Cloud to pull the latest code directly from GitHub, build it, and deploy it without using Railway's default GitHub auto-deploy mechanism. Both the CI/CD orchestrator and payment service would be deployed independently on Railway Cloud. The orchestrator never redeploys itself and never contains the payment service code. Its only responsibility is the orchestration, deciding when and what to deploy. Viewers, by the end of this tutorial, you will have a fully working, event-driven CI/CD platform where GitHub triggers deployments, your orchestrator controls the pipeline logic, and Railway Cloud handles the infrastructure, giving you a true understanding of how modern CI/CD systems work behind the scenes. So viewers, stick around and don't go away. First of all, create payment microservice, the service that our CI/CD orchestrator will deploy and manage on Railway Cloud. Viewers, after installing dependencies and setting package.json file, now write service code in index.js file. First, import the dependencies. Next, initialize the Express instance. Next, create a service health check endpoint. After that, mount all payment related routes under /API/payments. Next, code server startup and server listener mechanism from this payment service. And viewers, now service outer structure is ready. Now implement its child components like routes. Now, code the inner implementation of payment service inside the services package by creating create payment and get payment status methods. Now viewers, add, upload and push the code on GitHub. Viewers, now in second phase, create CICD orchestrator. Now create a webhook server inside the CICD orchestrator. This server will act as the entry gate of our CICD system, receiving secure event notifications from GitHub and triggering the deployment pipeline automatically. It would be like a microservice which will invoke webhook endpoint to start the process. Now, inside the webhook server, include necessary imports, express instance and body parser middleware that automatically converts incoming JSON payloads into JavaScript object accessible through request body. Next, define the port provided by the cloud environment or default as 400 and also define GitHub secret key. Viewers, next define verify signature function that will validate whether the webhook request was genuinely sent by the GitHub. Next, define the webhook endpoint. This is registered in GitHub as a webhook URL. If the signature verification fails, the request is immediately rejected for security reasons. Next, extract the branch name from GitHub event so our orchestrators knows exactly which code path and deployment pipeline to execute. Now, hand over the validated GitHub event to the CI/CD orchestrator to trigger the appropriate deployment pipeline based on the branch and payload data, and send the success response back to GitHub as webhook received. Viewers, in the end, start the webhook server on port defined by Railway Cloud environment. Viewers, next create the orchestrator.js file. Viewers, this orchestrator acts as the brain of CI/CD system, responsible for deciding which pipeline to run, when to run it, and in what order based on the GitHub events. Inside the file, first of all, import the payment service pipeline, which contains the steps to build and deploy the service. Next, define the orchestrator class, which represents the core controller of our CI/CD platform. When orchestrator is created, it initializes an empty object. Next, register a pipeline for a specific Git branch. Here, branch is like main, dev, and step is array of synchronous functions like pipeline stages. Next, create trigger method, which is called when a webhook event arrives. It starts the CI/CD execution for the given branch using the GitHub payload. Next, we set the stages of pushed branch in steps, and if it is not available, then it retrieves main branch. Viewers, if no pipeline exists at all, the orchestrator safely exits without crashing. Now, for loop executes each pipeline step sequentially, just like real CI/CD system. But viewers, in our pipeline, we have only one step, that is, trigger deployment on Railway Cloud. After that, it logs the message as pipeline completed. Now, create and export single global orchestrator instance. And viewers, in the end, register a deployment pipeline for the main branch, telling the orchestrator which function or step must be executed whenever a GitHub event is received from that branch. Viewers, up till now, we have created webhook server and our CI/CD orchestrator. But we have not defined the actual action our pipeline will perform after invocation. So we will specify all this in our payment pipeline. The payment pipeline is responsible for triggering a production redeployment of the payment microservice on Railway Cloud using Railway's official GraphQL API. So viewers, create pipelines package and inside it create payment pipeline.js file. First of all, define Railway API token, payment service ID and environment ID from environment variables. Next, create only one pipeline action as run payment pipeline to trigger deployment of payment service. It would be executed by the orchestrator when a GitHub webhook event is received. Next, include try-catch clause with error message as pipeline failed. Now, inside try-catch, create start logs. Then create a fetch call to send a request to Railway's official GraphQL API endpoint to programmatically trigger a deployment. Now, create post request and incorporate headers. Also authenticate the request using Railway token. JSON.stringify converts GraphQL request into a JSON payload that Railway's API can process. Next, create GraphQL mutation that instructs Railway to redeploy an existing service in a specified environment. Also inject the service ID and environment ID into the deployment request. This completes the deployment request payload. Then convert response from Railway into JSON data. Next, if response is an error, the pipeline fails immediately with a clear error message. And viewers, in the end, log the success message about deployment triggered successfully. Viewers, at this stage, our CICD orchestrator is almost complete. Now, create an actual webhook inside the GitHub. It will call the /webhook endpoint of orchestrator when code changes are committed to the GitHub. Viewers, for this purpose, go to desired repo in the GitHub, as in our case that is payment service. So go inside payment repo, then go to settings, and then inside the webhook section from the left panel. Over here, click on add webhook button from the right top. Log in again if it asks for it. Now it needs payload URL. In our case, it would be CICD orchestrator URL with its endpoint as /webhook. So go inside Railway Cloud setting panel, then go to domain section and copy the URL. Now paste it in the payload URL of GitHub. Then set the content type as application JSON. After that, create a GitHub secret. For this purpose, go to terminal and run the crypto command as in the screen. It will return a hash code key. We may set it as GitHub secret in webhook and also will use it in orchestrator code for handshake verification from GitHub. After that, keep everything as default and click add webhook button from the bottom, and it has created the webhook. Viewers, now go inside the deployment of orchestrator in Railway Cloud and click on variables tab. You may confirm this variable from the code of orchestrator. I have already created variable as GitHub secret, but you may create it by clicking it on new variable button and by setting the giving name and value. Now we can see this GitHub secret is used in verify signature function before triggering any other action. Viewers, next we need to generate another token that would be required while triggering payment service from internal GraphQL API of Railway Cloud. So viewers, in fetch command, we need authorization of Railway Cloud through account level token, which we have defined as Railway token. To create it, go to Railway Cloud account setting, then go to token from left panel. Over here, create a token by giving it a name as Railway token. Select the workplace and click the create button, and you can see it has created the token. Viewers, copy the token and go to CICD Orchestrator deployment. Then go to Variables tab and add the new variable with the name as railway token and paste that generated token inside it. Viewers, next we need IDs of two more parameters, Payment Service ID and Railway Cloud Environment ID. We have to pass these parameters with GraphQL API request so that it may find the payment service to start its deployment. So viewers, for Payment Service ID, go to Payment Service, then Variables tab, and in the bottom expand the Variables drop down arrow. From this section, copy the ID of Railway Service ID and paste it in Payment Pipeline code. Again go there and see the Railway Environment ID. This ID is already available in every service deployed on Railway Cloud. So there is no need to create this variable. Our code will automatically pick it as it picks the default port. And viewers, with this, our orchestrator coding and configuration is complete. So viewers, now we will again deploy CICD orchestrator manually through Railway Cloud CLI. We'll use the command railway space up. But viewers, if your session is expired from terminal or you have not linked with Railway CLI, then first log in Railway CLI through command railway space login. Then viewers, you may link it with command railway space link. This command will link your code to your deployed service. And if the service is not already deployed, it will deploy the new instance of that service. So viewers, after the successful linking, now it's time to push the build for deployment. So use the command railway space up. This command picked the code, built it and deployed it on the Railway Cloud. Now viewers, we have deployed our orchestrator on the cloud. Our payment service blank structure is already deployed on the cloud. Our payment service code is also uploaded on the GitHub. Our implementation is complete inside the webhook server, orchestrator and payment pipeline. So this is the time to test the CI/CD pipeline and orchestrator function live from the cloud. So viewers, I am going inside the code of the payment service and just pressing enter to make a little change in the code. After that, save the payment service JS file. Now execute git add, then git commit with message as final testing, and then git push command to push changes to GitHub repository. Now go inside deploy logs of CI/CD orchestrator. Wait for a few seconds and you can see it is showing the success logs of all actions of our CI/CD pipeline starting from trigger received for branch, then starting pipeline for branch, starting payment service pipeline, and payment service deployed pipeline triggered successfully, and in the last pipeline completed. Viewers, you can see there is no error or workflow issue in the whole cycle up till the completion. Viewers, you can also see the webhook endpoint call request, which is also successful. When changes were pushed to the GitHub, GitHub invoked its webhook and called Orchestrator webhook endpoint, which started the whole CICD pipeline. And viewers, with that, we have successfully built and tested a complete CICD platform from scratch. GitHub triggers the event, or Orchestrator controls the pipeline, and Railway Cloud handles the deployment. This setup can now be expanded to handle more services with different environments, approvals, rollbacks, notifications, and even complete platform level workflows. So viewers, if this video helped you to understand how CI/CD really works behind the scenes, hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.